FM 90.7 Blacksburg. What's up, everybody? You're listening to Hokie Weather Watch Live. Hokie Weather Watch Live is a radio talk show geared towards the only thing that impacts us all, the weather. The science, the communication, or even the pop culture influences that the weather brings to our daily lives. And we're going to touch on it all today. So thank you for tuning in, and now it's time to get to know all of our panelists because we have new panelists every single week. It's kind of crazy. So Caitlin, start us off. I know you've been here before, all 3 weeks, me and you.
Yes.
So
we're holding it down.
We're like the
over
dream
here.
team. No offense to the rest of our guys here, but you know, it is what it is. So Caitlin, go ahead.
Hey, how are you guys doing? I'm Caitlin Purcell, current incumbent WUVT chief meteorologist, and I study meteorology here. It is my minor, so
Okay.
yeah.
Sweet. What was the last song you listened to?
You know, I was going to pretend it was something a lot cooler than it was, but it was Justin Bieber, Let Me Love You, so.
Okay. No shame.
No, judge me if you want, but it's a good song.
No shame. Zach, you were here with us for week 1, and now you're back. What's up, man?
Yeah, so I guess I'm I'm filling in for Aaron today.
Yeah.
I was last week's special guest. I'm the president of the Meteorology Club here at Tech. I'm a senior meteorology major here. I'm glad to be back.
Okay. What was the last song you listened to?
Let's see. Probably it was John Bellion, All Time Low.
Okay.
I think if he gets a newer song.
Okay.
Maybe.
I can dig it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then our guest this week is Dan Nelson. Dan, you are a man that needs no introduction, so please.
Dan Nelson.
The Dan Nelson. Go ahead, Dan.
Indeed. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dan Nelson. I graduated back in May of 2016 in meteorology, and my passion is really looking at weather models and like operational forecasting, especially with hurricanes and winter weather. So
Okay.
there you have it.
What was the last song that you listened to, Dan?
Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd.
All right. I'm Nick Gilmore. I graduated from Tech Meteorology in 2015. I helped found Hokie Weather Watch back in the day, and I currently work for WVTF Public Radio in Roanoke. And the last song I listened to was a song called Priceless by For King and Country. Probably nobody in this room has heard of that, but that's okay.
Not even going to pretend.
It's lit. You need to check it out, I promise. But anyways, we have a great show for you today. I know that sounded like it was sarcastic, but I promise that it wasn't. It's going to be lit. I'm going to see how many times I can say lit during this
2.
broadcast.
I got the lit count.
I think you should.
I think that's 3.
That's been my word of like the past month, so I apologize to everyone in advance for what we got going on. But we're going to give you a quick update on some of the crazy weather that we've seen here in Southwest Virginia over the past week or so. Then we're going to give you an update on Hurricane Matthew, which is churning out in the Atlantic right now. And then we're going to talk about, do you know the difference between an advisory, a watch, or a warning when it comes to weather alerts? And then finally, we're going to be interviewing the one, the only Dan Nelson. So a great show. We're grateful that you're here today. First of all, before we get started, though, we want to talk about social media and how you can join the conversation with us if you would like to. So, Caitlin, can you give us a quick rundown on how to do that?
Right. You can find us on Twitter at HokiewXWatch and using the hashtag HokiewX if you want to interact with us.
Sweet. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Okay, so first things first, it's been kind of a crazy week weather-wise here in Blacksburg.
Right.
Caitlin, can you tell us what went down?
Yeah, so we were under area of pretty warm air, dry air, so area of high pressure for a while there. Had a lot of warm fall days, and then cold front came through and wreaked havoc on Blacksburg for a few days there.
I think that's an understatement.
Oh, yeah. Wednesday, we saw hail. That was Wednesday, correct?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, we saw hail. There were a few tornado warnings in the area,
like Southwest
close
Central
by.
Virginia.
Right, we didn't see any down here, but lot of rain,
it's crazy
storms,
stuff.
a lot of wind, and then Thursday, I think we had 2.8 inches fall in 24 hours.
Rain, which is a lot.
Yeah, so I mean, we've been in a mild drought phase for I don't know the past. Was it month?
Yeah, a few months, yeah.
Yeah, so that brought some necessary rain and cooled things down a lot. Starting to transition into fall, I think.
Okay.
That hail was something else on Wednesday.
I was on the way to my test.
Yeah, and I was at
nice
work
stretch.
and like people were at the bookstore just waiting it out, and I was running out inside it, the quarter-sized hail.
Well, Dan, we know how much you love ice, so I can see you. Were you doing like snow angels out in the hail?
I know, yeah, 60-mile-an-hour winds and quarter-sized hail falling sideways. It was awesome.
It was a dream.
It was a dream come true for you, Dan.
Indeed.
I'm so happy that you're here. You don't even know. I've been waiting all day for this. I can't wait to talk to you a little bit later.
It's going to be lit.
It's going to be lit. That's right.
Geez.
Let's take a quick break for our PSA announcement.
You can change the future of computing by joining the Association for Women in Computing, which meets every other Wednesday at 7 p.m. in McBride 110. For more information, you can contact Jasmine at jazz295@vt.edu.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I don't know if any of you, well, I know all of you all know about Hurricane Matthew, but maybe to you all listening, maybe you've watched the news over the past week and you've heard about this crazy hurricane that's just kind of chilling in the Atlantic right now. Zach, can you give us an update on Matthew?
Yeah, so Hurricane Matthew has kind of taken precedence this week in the weather highlights on the news. So just for a kind of a quick update, Matthew is currently about 300 miles south of Haiti, moving north around 5 miles an hour. So nowhere near us currently. The current track has it barely missing the western edge of Haiti, and then is expected to make landfall on the eastern portion of Guantanamo, Cuba, Tuesday morning as a strong Category 3 hurricane. For those of you who don't really know the category strengths, a Category 3 hurricane packs winds of 111 miles per hour to about 129 miles an hour. So after Matthew makes its way north of Cuba, it is expected to weaken a bit as it moves over the Bahamas, but remaining a Category 3 hurricane. At the moment, Matthew currently does not pose a large threat to the United States other than strong rip currents along the coast. It seems that Matthew will stay off the coast, but things do change. So for the latest updates, you can find them on the Hooky Weather Watch Twitter and blog.
Okay.
Yeah.
This storm has been kind of crazy. I feel like every single model run, it's been something that's been a little bit different.
Agree.
Yeah. Dan, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, like the GFS, one of the computer models the forecasters use, a couple runs has the hurricane really, really close to the East Coast and perhaps even making landfall in the Outer Banks, while the European model and the Canadian model have the storm rather further out to sea with minimal impacts, but still, as Zach said, nasty rip currents and whatnot. So, I mean, it's just the East Coast really shouldn't let their guard down now with regards to this storm. A lot can change, 4 to 7 days out. So be abreast of the situation.
Okay.
Dan, I think I saw, was it on your Facebook, that this is the first storm in the Atlantic to reach a Cat 5 since 2007?
Since 2007, and
That's
at the
crazy.
lowest latitude in history, at
Really?
13.3 degrees north latitude. So
Did not realize that.
it beat out Ivan. Ivan was 13.7 degrees north.
So pretty significant.
Didn't it go through a whole bunch of shear as well? Wasn't it expected to like decrease in strength, but in actuality it kind of got stronger?
Right, and that's that's what happens with hurricanes. If they go in this high shear environment, they're supposed to weaken. But I think it's just the energy of untouched water, warm water over the Caribbean that really hasn't been seized upon by tropical systems for the longest time, and I think that's what's kept the strength up, is just the really warm water down there.
That's really impressive. For those at home that don't know, shear is a change with the wind direction or the wind speed with height. So obviously this is something we're going to have to watch over the next coming day. Sometimes I just talk way too fast and it just comes out all wrong, so I apologize. We're going to have to watch it over the next several days. So
Definitely.
be sure to stay tuned to that. So anybody else want to add anything on that?
Well, if it is going to make landfall on the United States, it'll be later next week, Thursday night into Friday morning, which could bring some cool, strong winds to our area coming from the northeast. So it'll be kind of cool. But that's if it does make landfall on the United States.
Okay.
Also, clarification, it's no longer Category 5.
Right.
It's a 4 now.
Yeah.
Correct.
And expected to weaken.
It only stayed a Cat 5 for
like maybe 12 hours.
Okay.
So,
Yep.
yeah, and it's actually expected to weaken to a category 3 within the next 24 hours.
Okay.
So good news.
Good news for sure. Well, definitely keep an eye on that over the next several days. Okay, moving on to our next topic. Do you know the difference in weather alerts? So, after such a crazy week of weather like we just talked about, I always tend to wonder how much people pay attention to weather alerts. So, for example, here in Blacksburg on Thursday night, we had a flash flood warning. And it was very significant in the fact that it literally blew up every single piece of technology that I owned. It blew up my phone. Yeah. It blew up my TV. It was like everywhere. There was no way that you were going to be able to miss that. And everybody that I talked to, they talked about how it blew up their phones too. So thinking about that, it's hard not to take notice of that alert. But what if people don't exactly know what the alert means? Do people know the difference between like a severe thunderstorm watch and a severe thunderstorm warning? When people see severe updates on television, do certain colors work better than others, like maybe red for tornadoes, yellow for severe thunderstorm, green for flash flood? What about the SPC's new system? We hear a lot about that in the meteorological field. How has that impacted things? So as all of these questions are in my mind, I took an unofficial poll of some friends and loved ones over the past several days, and this is what I came up with. So I asked my mom. You know, like moms are great to understand if the rest of the general public knows what's going on as far as the weather-wise. So she, for the most part, mom knew what was up. And I guess it's just because she has a meteorologist for a son, so props to me. Thank you. But she said that the people that she worked with had no idea what the difference between, like, say, a severe thunderstorm watch and a severe thunderstorm warning is.
Honestly, I feel like one of the most, like, the highest question, like, people ask me, what's the difference between or like, which one's worse?
Okay. My brother, he knew the difference between, like, a winter weather advisory and a winter storm watch, but he was a little hazy on the difference between, like, a severe thunderstorm watch and severe thunderstorm warning. My dad really did not care for the question at all. It's just part of who dad is. It's fine. But that was kind of telling to me because, like, how many other people are like that? They just don't care.
My dad.
Exactly.
So we can relate.
I feel you, Dad. I feel you. How many other people are out there that are like that? That just blows my mind. And then I asked my girlfriend, and she basically just flipped the meanings of what a watch and a warning was. So, props to her. We haven't been dating that long, so there's still time.
She has time.
She has time. That's right. So there are 43 different advisories, watches, and warnings issued by the National Weather Service. Did you guys know that?
I didn't.
To me,
I knew there was a lot. I didn't know that exactly.
I actually did not know there were that many.
Yeah.
But
I feel like
that's impressive.
That's a lot. And, of course, all of those are necessary in their own way. But I was wondering, is there a way that we can maybe trim that down a bit, make it a bit clearer to the general public? What do you guys think about that?
You know, it's really not up to. I guess. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
That's kind of a hard question because there's so many different parameters for different watches and warnings. Because you have heat, you have flooding, you have tropical. There's different marine warnings for different sectors of the economy, for, like, you know, fishing and stuff like that. There's fog and wind, which impact, you know, airliners. There's fire, and then, you know, you have winter, and then you have severe weather. I mean, I don't know if you can really combine too many of them.
Right.
The ones that impact, I guess, people on a daily basis would be just like the severe weather or the winter weather. And I really don't think you can combine too many of those.
Okay.
But, like, maybe the ones that people don't use, you know, every day.
Okay.
Maybe you can
be
those.
just a little bit clearer.
Like an ice storm warning.
Yeah.
You just had to throw that in there, didn't you?
I did. Like, it should just, everything should just, in my humble opinion, everything should just be under winter storm warning for winter. So that's just me, though.
Okay. For those of you that don't know, Dan loves ice storms. Like, that is his bread and butter. And we have a group, like, this is going to sound super nerdy, but it's fine. It is totally fine. We have a group, like, message here when we all geek out about crazy weather events that are happening. And Dan, like, anytime there's mention of ice, he is blowing up the chat because he is just so excited. And I love him for it. Thank you, Dan.
It's Iceman Dan.
Iceman Dan,
Indeed.
for sure. So, have you guys ever had any experiences where people that you know may have been a little bit confused about what was headed their way because of an alert that they received?
Yeah, I would say mostly for me living in Northern Virginia, we get a lot of flash flood and tornadoes.
Okay.
So tornado watches are very different from a tornado warning, and I
Right.
think people need to be educated on that because the difference can be life-changing and it could be really dangerous. So a watch would mean that it's favorable. The conditions are favorable
Right.
for a tornado to occur, and a warning means it has touched down physically.
Somebody's seen it. It's
Right.
going on.
So, I mean, that's just tornadoes. I mean, I don't know if you want to go into flash floods or it's just the same concept.
Right. Right. Of course. Of course. Honestly, I think that the best way the National Weather Service, I think, is doing a great job.
Mhm.
And, for example, earlier this week, we had a severe thunderstorm watch here in Southwest Virginia. And I saw posted on their Facebook page, they had, it was a big map, and it showed all the counties that were affected and what the different hazards that could be expected from this, and the number of people that were in the watch box and hospitals and schools. And I was like, that's really cool that they have that. But then it was like, well, how many people are going to actually see that? How many people are on Facebook? What about people that don't have access to Facebook? How can we communicate exactly what is coming our way?
Well,
You know
I
what I'm
think
saying?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I was in the room with a couple friends
Mm.
when we had the flash flood warning, and all of our phones simultaneously just got the message. And I think it's nice. It's not through an app. It's just your
Right.
iPhone. It just pops up.
Just pops up.
So you have to be in the know.
You got to be in the know.
So back to your question about if we could, kind of combine these different watches and warnings and
Right.
advisories. So I was looking on the National Weather Service's definition of the different watches and warnings,
Yeah.
advisories, and it makes it a little bit more hard to actually combine these because the difference between a watch and a warning is just like Caitlin said, is a watch is it's favorable, a warning means it's more imminent, and the National Weather Service is more confident it's actually going to happen. And so an advisory is just a lesser amount from the warning. So say for ice storm, you get an ice storm warning. It's a quarter of an inch of ice or greater. Now a freezing rain advisory, which is similar to an ice storm warning, let's just call it like an ice storm advisory almost. It's a quarter of an inch or less of ice.
Kind of like a glaze when they're not really expecting too much.
Yeah,
in the
an
way,
advisory
yeah.
is more like, take precautions, whereas a warning is more like,
This is happening.
yeah, the milk and bread index goes up
Yeah.
to a 10.
Brad Panovich right there.
Yeah. So yeah, that makes it a whole lot harder to kind of combine these different things.
Okay. And I'm not trying to bash on the National Weather Service at all because they do an absolutely amazing job. My question was mainly, is there a way that the general public gets confused about this? And I think that we've pointed that out.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way that we can better communicate threat to the public?
I mean, unless people actually open up the warning or the advisory, the watch, and actually
Read into it.
There's not much else you really can do because, I mean, not everyone in Blacksburg is watching the news at the same time
Right.
when the weatherman's telling giving this information to you. So, unless the viewer actually opens up the warning and reads it, I'm not sure.
Okay. And that goes back to like my dad. He's just indifferent to the whole thing. Interesting stuff. Thank you guys. Something I was just really curious about. Is there a way that we can better do this? I know that there have been discussions at AMS and NWA about is the whole advisory watch and warning system, is there a way that we can revamp that? Maybe talk about it, what colors work better, all that good stuff. So it's just something that I think we as a field of meteorology we have to think of as we go forward. Because the way that I've always seen things is our field is very science and mathematically based. And if you can't relay the message of what's happening in a scientific and mathematical way to someone that doesn't necessarily know that, it's pretty much pointless.
Yeah, the communications aspect is huge.
Right, exactly. You gotta be able to make sure that you are relaying the message that you need to know to the people that need to know it. So, anyways, thank you guys. We are going to take a quick break. We'll be back with the Dan Nelson in an interview about cold air damming, which is something that happens a lot here in Blacksburg, also known as Bleaksburg. And you're going to find out why it's called that. I love like Chicago gets called the Windy City. I really think Blacksburg can lay a claim to the Windy Town.
It's catching on.
I really do. So we'll be right back. Please be sure to come back and join us. Welcome back to Hokie Weather Watch Live. Dan, are you ready?
Absolutely.
This is the moment that you've all been waiting for, the interview with the Iceman, Dan Nelson himself. I personally, I didn't know that you were going to be on the show today until last week, and when I saw that, I got real excited because, Dan, I just love how excited and animated you get when we talk about ice. It blows my mind.
I'm glad to be here, man. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, man. And for those, Dan was stuck in traffic for several hours today. Is that right?
It was coming back from Whoville, Charlottesville. Usually takes 2.5 hours. Took 3.5, but with a little extra initiative and effort on my part, I was able to overcome that.
So it's really just kind of a Christmas miracle that you're here.
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm thankful, Dan. I'm so thankful. So we're going to be talking with Dan about cold air damming. And I know that probably sounds like, what on earth are they talking about? So, Dan, tell us what cold air damming is.
Cold air damming is actually a weather phenomenon. It happens quite frequently here in Blacksburg, usually during the cold season months, your December, January, February, meteorological winter, but can also happen in the shoulder months of winter, sometimes late November and March and April. And it occurs when you have high pressure, and high pressure has a clockwise flow around it. So you have high pressure around the northeast United States and southeast Canada, and that high pressure funnels down that cold Arctic air, and it becomes trapped or dammed on the eastern side of the Appalachian Mountains, and it can't go anywhere. And as a forecaster, this is very important to determine, what the forecast is going to be. Because if you see that coming up in weather models and you have a storm system developing to the south, odds are you're going to be dealing with some winter weather usually.
Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong, but the air comes down the spine of the Appalachians. It's trapped at the surface, and then warmer air rides up above that. Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
All right.
So you said the topography of the region has a lot to do with this.
Yes. The topography, absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
So where else is this kind of prevalent?
Also, it's known to happen in the lee of the Rockies, the eastern Rocky Mountains, eastern Colorado, central to eastern Colorado, when you have the same high pressure up in Saskatchewan, Canada, or Manitoba, and you get that clockwise flow coming down there, and the cold air gets trapped on the eastern side of the Rockies, and you get that same warm air riding up over top there, producing that precip falling into cold air. If you have a storm system kind of riding the subtropical jet stream to the south of that. So,
Okay, cool.
So this is it's pretty rare as far as around the world. There's only certain places that it can happen, right?
You have to have a mountain chain.
Okay.
Yeah, oriented kind of north in the north-south direction. So usually
we're perfectly set right here in
we're
Blacksburg,
ripe
right?
for it.
Bleaksburg weather.
Absolutely.
I love it. So I cannot tell you the number of times that a wedge is set up. That's another name for cold air damming. And it just sits there for days. And it's just absolutely dreary outside. And I love it.
I'm a huge fan.
It's such a hard time for forecasters though, because when is that wedge going to break?
Right.
When is it going to erode, so to speak, and warm air is going to take over? So
how does that actually occur?
Usually when the high pressure actually moves off or further east, you get that easterly flow off the Atlantic, and that sends in more warmer, moister air, and you don't get that northerly component to the wind.
Okay. So Dan, you are, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're about to do your master's degree here at Tech, right?
That's on the table, possibly next fall.
Okay.
Gonna apply up. Also applying up to a couple other places too.
So is this maybe a potential research project for you?
Absolutely, to continue it, continuation of the project.
You went to NWA with something, right?
I did.
Can
absolutely.
you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I went to the National Weather Association conference in Norfolk, Virginia. It took place, mid-September.
So just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, a few weeks ago. Yep. And it was a blast. I was only there for my poster presentation for 2 hours, but it was still a good time. I got a picture taken with Jim Cantori.
Okay.
And Brad Panovich actually took the picture, so got a little double whammy going on.
So you were
there.
meeting all the big names in the field, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It was a humbling experience. So I just pretty much my research is dealing with cold air damming in and around the central to eastern Appalachian Mountain region, and looking at it from an air mass standpoint.
Okay.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So ice storms.
Absolutely.
Why do you love them so much?
I love ice storms so much. Just 1994. I don't know how many of you were alive back then.
Not I.
The ice storm in 1994. I was 5 years old, and my power went off for like 10 days.
I was 2 years old, but I can remember stories about this.
And it was so bad that Virginia Tech they couldn't get any gasoline to the generators, and the toilets couldn't flush in Slusher, and they had to send the students.
That's just terrible.
They had to send the students home for a few days. All the students home.
Wow.
They closed the university like completely. No, there wasn't any water. Like you couldn't get supplies into the university. So and that just really got my interest in
So is
the
that
love of ice.
Is that the thing that got you into meteorology as a whole?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. That, and also the 1996. It it wasn't a blizzard, but we still got 2.5 feet. The 1996 big, huge snowstorm that happened here. And also the derecho in, what was it, 2012 or 11?
I want to say 12.
I think you're right. I think it was 2012. That really got my
Just solidified it for you.
solidified it for me.
I'm always interested in hearing people's stories of what got them into meteorology. So it was really young for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome. And you've been crazy for ice ever since.
Pretty much. Yep. Absolutely.
I wish I could articulate to you all how excited Dan gets for ice storms. Like I just wish I could show you some of the chats that I've seen from this man, and it's absolutely amazing. So Dan, is there anything else you want to tell us, man, about you and your life and why you love ice storms so much?
My favorite ice cream flavor is vanilla.
Okay.
So two weeks ago,
Man.
just
Okay.
following up on
what was
that
what was the last movie you watched?
last movie, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Some people would say that movie is absolutely terrible.
I love that movie.
I'm not one of them, but
That's my favorite
I'm just
one
saying.
because just Mustafar, the lava, and it's just so evil.
well, people say like the prequel trilogy is just terrible. They just
I disagree.
trash on it. Okay. He's a purist. He likes vanilla ice cream. I can relate.
Man, I have no words. No words.
All right. Well, it's been lit. How many times is that? 4?
5, 4,
Yeah, I'm gonna
yeah.
say 5.
That's
Yeah.
I'm a little sad at myself. I thought I was going to get more than that, but it's fine. Obviously, this is Hokie Weather Watch Live, and what is a weather show without a weekly forecast? So, Zach, can you hit us up with that, man?
So, it looks like tonight it's going to be clear, lows in the low 50s. Tomorrow morning we're going to see some patchy fog with the highs in the low to mid 70s. Throughout the rest of the week, we'll be looking at, again, highs in the low 70s. Wednesday, though, we're going to maintain our reputation as Bleaksburg
Sweet.
as Seattle comes to Blacksburg. It's going to be drizzly and kind of chilly with 67 degrees.
Is that a wedge? I haven't looked at the forecast, but is that...
I don't think so.
Have
don't
you
think
looked
so.
at anything,
It's
Dan?
just a Bleaksburg special.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's just
All right.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Just throw it in there in the middle of the week. Why
but
not?
Then after that, it's gonna start cooling off, and fall I think is starting to take over.
Okay.
So for those of you going to Chapel Hill this Saturday for the
That
Tech
game's
game,
going to be huge.
it's looking extremely nice with lows in the lows or with highs in the low 70s, and it's gonna be mostly sunny.
Okay.
So it's gonna be a great football day.
Any early predictions on that game?
Tech 50.
50?
No, I don't know.
Hey, you never know. Our offense is pretty good.
If they don't fumble,
If we don't
I
fumble.
think it's
You
gonna
got
be-
it.
I think it's gonna be high scoring.
I'll go Tech 27-24, closer than the experts think.
Okay. All right.
I think
I
I
can
might
dig
Dan
it.
Nelson,
higher score
expert.
than that. I think I'm going 35, 30 Tech.
Okay.
That's 5 points. Yeah.
I can dig it.
Yeah.
I can dig it. As you can tell, we're obviously out of topics here on this show today, so let's end it. Thanks for being here for episode 4 of Hokie Weather Watch Live. Next week, hopefully, Jamie and Aaron will be back. Jamie has only been here for 1 episode, and he was the guy that came up with this idea. Tell me how that works.
shout out to Jamie if you're listening.
Shout out to
by
Jamie
the
if
way.
you're listening.
Jamie
right now.
doing Jamie things. That's just what he does.
We love you, man, but you need to be here. It's just not the same without you. Major props to Dan for being here today.
Thank you again. Thank you all
Um,
so much for having me.
oh, yeah,
Man,
no
it's been a
problem.
joy. Thank you.
Thanks to Caitlin and Zach as always. This is Nick Gilmore, and hope you have a great week. Thanks for listening.